as well as things like mask use.
This was not the news that any of us wanted to hear, and most of all, it wasn't the news that those people working in businesses that can't work at level 3 wanted to hear. It will be tough for them, and it's disappointing for all of us. Over the 3 days leading up to today, the steady reduction in community transmitted cases from 9 to 6 to 1 led us all to hope that it would be possible to return to level 2 by Wednesday night. But that is not how it's panned out. 8 additional community cases today, and while what we wanted was to return to level 2, the strongest medical advice from the experts, from the epidemiologists, is that we would put at risk the benefits that we have already gained from the sacrifices that we have made if we move prematurely to level 2. Their advice is that if you look at places, and I suppose we all think of Melbourne and Victoria, that did not go hard and early and complete the process, they've ended up getting the worst of all possible worlds. I see overnight the death toll in Victoria has risen to over 400, which is a real tragedy for the people just across the Tasman from us, and we learn the lessons from that. I know that this means more sacrifice by Aucklanders, but if we want to beat the virus, if we want to stamp out the transmission, then it makes sense to follow the expert opinion and to do what they advise. I do want to thank the vast majority of Aucklanders who have done their best by following the rules. When I was at work on Saturday and I looked around the CBD, most people were social distancing. Many people were wearing masks. I know Aucklanders have taken to heart that if you are feeling the symptom, you need to get tested. And doing those things are really important to making sure that we can win this battle. There has been another change announced by the government, and that is that I think from Monday, those using public transport at level 2 and above will be required to wear masks. I think most people will agree that that is a sensible precaution given our experience with the contagion of COVID-19 on our public transport system. I also want to remind Aucklanders that when you are in places where you cannot socially distance, it is sensible to wear a mask. Medical opinion is now quite firm that that is something that is important to help stop spreading the transmission of the disease. The rules that Aucklanders need to keep following are the ones that we've talked about many times. If you are feeling unwell, get tested. If you are going out, maintain your social distance, but to the extent possible, please keep local, keep in your bubble. I also want to remind Aucklanders that what we can do to help those in businesses that would otherwise be affected by COVID-19, shopping locally is really important. You can still go out and get your takeaways and your takeaway coffee. You can click and collect, and in that way, a whole lot of businesses are maintaining their activity in the community because they've adapted and they've shown their resilience in that regard. Most of all, my request to Aucklanders is just to be patient for a few more days, be tolerant, be kind, but most of all, please act responsibly. Our ability to beat this virus depends on all of us working together, taking the steps that are necessary. We're almost there, Auckland. We are hopefully now in the home straight. We need to stay the course and we'll get there. Thank you very much, and open to any questions that you may have.
This is the right thing to do from a health perspective, but even so, business owners are telling us that some of them, these 4 days will be the difference between them being able to reopen and having to shut down for good. Is that something that you're simply telling them that they have to accept, or is there anything that you can do for them?
Look, I really feel for the businesses in that situation. But as the Westpac economist pointed out just last week, there is not a, saying that it's either health or the economy is a false dichotomy. Once again, Melbourne is the example where you get the worst of both worlds. You get people dying because of the contagion from the disease, and you still end up with a lockdown even more severe than what we're undergoing at the moment. We want to avoid that at all costs. The medical experts are the medical experts. I'm not going to pretend that I know better than them what may be necessary to stamp out the transmission of this disease. I think we have to follow their advice.
Yeah, but not suggesting that we shouldn't make those choices and not implement the lockdown further or whatever. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that is there anything that you can do for these businesses that are being forced to shut down at the moment?
From a council perspective, there probably isn't a hell of a lot that we can do. We rely on the government to take those proactive steps as they did with the original extension of the wage subsidy and the extension of sick leave and so on. I'm not dismissive of their concerns. I think their concerns are genuine ones, they're real ones. But we may not be doing them any favour at all if we were to come out of level 3 earlier than what the advice is that, from medical experts. We would only make the economic situation much worse for them while creating the potential for the overwhelming of our health system. We've avoided that so far. We've done better than almost any country on earth. And it's frustrating we're in this situation, but that is the situation, and we need to do what we're advised by the medical experts is necessary to win this battle, and we will win it.
What about the most vulnerable people? We're seeing lines at food banks come back even worse than last lockdown. How does that feel being the mayor of Auckland City, and what it potentially may be the hardest time in recent memory for someone who is living in poverty?
I think it's really tough for those that were probably on a marginal income in the best of times, and now they can't work. And we've talked with government and the Ministry of Social Development. Last time we opened up a major area, the Spark Arena, to distribute food packages. The advice this time is that the government will work through the existing food bank network for the relatively short period of time that we've got left. We are still giving assistance to organisations like the Auckland City Mission and Help with Meals.
Could Auckland survive another lockdown, Mayor? I suppose I'm asking because I wonder what happens past this point. Does thinking need to happen around what happens if another cluster breaks out? Could the city survive?
Yeah, well, we certainly couldn't. Well, of course we would survive, but it would be a hugely undesirable situation to go back to level 4, which so far we've avoided, and it's not even desirable to have the kind of level of restrictions that we have under level 3. I think we're learning as we go along, and we're evolving better practice. So this time, we've got more and better testing, probably one of the highest testing regimes per head of affected people in the world. We are using our contact apps. I'm on Google Maps, so everywhere I go is traceable, and that's important for it. We're learning that not everything was done as it should have been done on the border, and we're improving that. And I've got no doubt that as we improve in all of those areas, the risk of ongoing lockdowns will reduce. We don't want to get back into constant lockdowns every time there is a spread. If it had just been a few cases, then I think the government would have stepped away from that. The difficulty we had was the nature of this cluster involved 5 different churches, as many schools. It involved a lot of workplaces right across the city. It wasn't just in one neighbourhood, and it involved people on public transport. And in those circumstances, not to have taken action, I think, would have been regarded by the majority of New Zealanders as remiss. But as we improve our response to this, and this is probably the lesson from Taiwan that went through SARS and swine fever and bird flu and so on, they have perfected their systems. And we are doing that now, and hopefully that will get us through to the point where a vaccine can be developed to provide longer term protection for all of us.
So, you know, the government's talked about its resurgence plan. Does that need to be more open, or do we need to know what those improvements might look like before it next sort of, you know, if we get another cluster sort of thing? Do we need to know a little bit more about what life might look like?
I think, you know, I think one of the things that I would congratulate the government on is its level of communication. And, you know, we all probably remember back to that weekend when the Prime Minister first announced this is what Level 1, this is what Level 2, Level 3, Level 4 meant. And right across the world, people have praised the clarity of what we put out. Does that mean it was perfect? No, it doesn't. Does it mean that we have to keep, we need to keep trying to improve it? Yes, it does, and I think the government has accepted that. Mistakes have been made along the way, not with the dramatically bad consequences that we see, for example, in the United States, not to mention many other countries, but there have been mistakes, and we need to learn from those mistakes to get it right. It's nobody's fault in particular that the world is suffering from a virus such as we haven't seen since 1918. It is our fault if we don't follow the good advice that we're getting, and we're part of the problem. So government needs to keep on improving its act, and we need to keep on staying the course and following the rules that are sensible rules for us. And you know, message for the kids that were playing on the skateboard park over the shore. Look, they may feel that they're bulletproof, and the chances of them dying of the virus aren't that great, but every one of those kids will have grandparents, will have parents, will know other vulnerable people, and there are people because of comorbidities that are most vulnerable. When we break the rules, we don't just put ourselves at risk, we put other more vulnerable people at risk, and that's something we've all got to really remember. We are in this together, we can do it as a community, and we've shown that before, we've beat it before, and we can do it again.
Auckland's a bit of an island still. Are you sort of happy the government's landed on that?
Yeah, I suppose the saving grace is that some areas of New Zealand are for the first time acknowledging that Auckland's really quite important to them. It's a strange and it's not a great experience to be in a situation where, you know, I've got family just south of the border in the Waikato and a grandchild that I'd love to see and I haven't been able to see, or the other one for that matter in Auckland. But you know, can we last another 4 days? Yep, we can. Wished we didn't have to. But if it's necessary to do it, let's do the right thing and let's not put what we've achieved at risk.
Excuse me, the council's own finances, how much is this latest lockdown expected to cost all out?
The better news that I have from council is that the impact of this lesser level of lockdown will be less severe by far than last time, because last time we were building in the costs of, for example, losing international travel, etc. Well, that's not there anyway. You can only lose it once. It will have some impact, but I'm told that the severity of that impact at the moment, working with the council and our CCOs, is much less than previously, and we hope that we can get through it. It's not easy. And, you know, if the government were to come up with more shovel-ready projects and can give a boost to you know, that infrastructure work that stimulates the economy and creates jobs, of course we'd accept it. But
how are those discussions going about those more work or possible financial boost from the government?
Until we've determined what the extent of the lockdown is, and we hope that it will end on Sunday, we won't know with certainty as to whether we need to go to the government and say, look, this is having a totally crippling effect. So far, what I've been really proud of, I know some people described it as an austerity budget, far from it. We've managed to keep up our investment in infrastructure at $2.6 billion, $1 billion more than the average for the last 5 years. And that's the part that we can play in stimulating the economy and creating jobs. Now, if the impact of this lesser level of lockdown, level 3 rather than level 4, proves to be more severe than what we're anticipating, you know, then I would be having discussions with government.
So based on if we go to level 2 on Sunday night, you won't need to go to the government for additional money?
The prospects of us asking for further help is less the less time we're in lockdown. This 4 days isn't helpful in that regard. It is, however, we concede necessary, and we'll do what we can to stand on our own feet. I don't like having to go to government and saying, look, we need assistance with this, but by the same token, we will work in partnership with government, as we have done to date, to get some of these programs up and running. You know, the announcement of the main trunk and the third main trunk and the electrification of the rail line to Pukekohe. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of jobs and long-term assets for the city. We're grateful that those projects are going ahead. We're working closely with government to make sure that they do happen, and we'll play our part in that for the sake of Auckland and for the sake of the whole country and its economy.
Has council considered taking the wage subsidy for any of its own employees?
We're not eligible for the wage subsidy because our income hasn't dropped by the requisite 40%. So that's not an option that's been open to us.
And if you are to go to the government for that additional funding, depending on how the next few days goes, are you looking for a loan or...?
Loans don't help the council at all because we have a debt to revenue ratio which, if we exceed beyond a short period of time with a credible plan to get back under that ratio, that automatically costs us money if we suffer a downgrading in our rating. At the moment, our rating's second only to the government, but if we were to lose the confidence of those agencies, you know, that is a cost that would add, you know, maybe 120, 130 to 300 million over a 10-year period to our interest rate bill. At the moment, with lower interest rates, we're doing quite well out of that, but interest rates won't stay low forever as the economy recovers, and you know, we want to maintain our access to a broad range of financial markets so we can get the best money available at the best rates for Auckland ratepayers. Yep.
Just finally, Mayor, you've been a politician for a long time, you've been a minister. How does this compare to your previous political experience, like being the Mayor of Auckland and the second of what may be an undetermined, unknown amount of lockdowns? Is this the most difficult job you've had in politics so far?
I think Leader of the Opposition was that, to tell you the truth. Just ask anyone who's done the job. Look, one thing I've discovered after, you know, 36, 37 years in politics is that life is about not about avoiding challenges, but rising to meet them when they arise. We've done that with our emergency budget. We've done it collectively as a council, and I'm proud of the way in which council has responded to that. It has been tough. You know, getting COVID-19, that's the first time in my lifetime that I've had a lockdown, and anybody else in this room, looking around at all of you. And having that on top of a, you know, 1 in 200 year drought didn't help at all either. But life is like that, whether it's your personal life or your public life. Challenges happen, and you don't shy away from them. You rise up and you meet them, and you do the best job you can for the people that you work for. In this case, it's the people of Auckland. Okay, good as gold. Thank you very much, everyone, for that. And if there's anything else that you've got, just please get in touch with my office. Okay, thanks very much. It'd be helpful if I put it the right way up, wouldn't it? And they're irritating things, but it does help keep you and everybody else safe. Thank you very much. Cheers.